Audible presents An Atonally Royal Egg, an audiobook brought to you by Unstoppable Sweetie Show. Written and narrated by Probert Dean. Music by Gareth Wyn Jones. Intro delivered to you by Yash.
My sister and I always went to sleep half an hour after bedtime. My grandmother would glance at the clock, and then, perhaps out of sympathy or loneliness, she'd slide a Red Dwarf VHS off the shelf. "You can watch one episode," she'd say. "Then Lord Jesus says it's time for bed." All I cared about at that age was the theme tune. The show could be rubbish as long as it had a good theme tune. When the opening music finished, I'd wait patiently for 28 minutes until the closing credits came on. Then grandmother would pause the video before the next episode started and send us to our bunk bed. I'd won the top bunk from my sister in a game of rock, paper, scissors, where the melody looping in my mind would transfigure into a dream. Then I was older. Though still unable to follow the threads of telly and films, none of which flowed as logically or excitingly as music. The only book I ever read all the way through, and then reread over and over to the detriment of all others, was a book called An Allergy to An Allergy. Sometimes it seemed the world itself was like the sprawling old novels on the school syllabus, Great Expectations and 12th Night and that sort of thing, which made sense to everyone but me. There was no neural pathway to my head for even the simplest instructions. I used to wish that people sang to each other like in musicals. Then, perhaps, I'd be able to follow the thrust of conversation. At night, when the cerebellum reigned, I'd panic and convince myself that it was all caused by the thing in the bin bag. It might sound paranoid, but the human brain remains a mystery to science, and trauma can manifest in ways that even the best psychiatrists could scarcely imagine. Yes, it must have been the life form. I wasn't a murderer by ambition. I might have called the emergency services, but which one? In the end, I stuffed it into a bin bag, surprised that it fit, and hid it at the bottom of the garden. A few days later, I went back to check on it. It had liquefied and congealed again, looking very much like a bag of custard and gravy. No one believed in ADHD in those days. It was an American thing born out of poor parenting and a conspiracy by doctors to overprescribe pills. "You just need to try." That was grandmother's advice. She thought the fact that I could accidentally stay up till midnight playing Spider Solitaire meant that I was selectively inattentive, that I could choose when to concentrate. But it was always the disappointed tone that hurt more than her words. She used to say someone could break into the house, and I wouldn't notice. But I did notice. One night, I was sitting in the dark, fast-forwarding a VHS tape, when the house made a loud noise. Being home alone amplifies all sounds, doubly so at night, so I ignored it. A second noise, which sounded like someone too big for a window trying to climb through one, their weight straining the radiator brackets, made me get up and investigate. The shadow of the curtain rail fell across the floor as light came on outside. Grandmother's broom was by the door, as always. This broom had wooden bristles, like a witch's, which rustled as I picked it up. It felt deadly and perhaps a little sorcerous in my grip. The intruder's torch simultaneously gave away his position and blinded me with white light. I swung at the faint outline of the man behind it, and the broom handle collided with something solid. If I'd known he was merely lost and confused, then I wouldn't have hit him so hard. His bioluminescence, which I'd mistaken for a torch, went out. With a flick of the light switch, I could now see he only looked human, but wasn't. There was no mouth. It was also unclear how many eyes he had. Maybe one, maybe two, maybe even three. Whatever he was trying to communicate was obviously important. He, or she, I suppose, produced a dice from somewhere. A standard white and black 1 to 6er. "A dice," I said. The mouthless face said nothing. Do you want me to roll it? Knowing she had no answer, I rolled the dice and read the result aloud. 5. But by then, she was dead. I've often wondered about that dice. Why it appeared, where it came from. It might have been their way of communicating. But if so, what was the message? No experience has ever confounded me so, and yet life by its very nature is strange and confusing. Perhaps their race expressed themselves in visual metaphors, symbolism, analogy. My English teachers will tell you I always had an allergy to analogy. I suppose it meant something about fate. Then, today, I remembered that the singular form of dice is die. Is that what she was trying to say? Die?
Inaudible presents An Atonally Royal Egg. An audiobook brought to you by Unstoppable Swedish. Written and narrated by Probert Dean. Music by Gareth Wyn Jones. Outro delivered to you by Yash.